I didn't think anyone would be here with the rain and the cold, but yes. And thank you to Eastern Edge. Thank you, Rachel, for having us. What a great space you have here. Yeah, so today we are going to work on generative art using code. And so we're going to be using a programming language called JavaScript. And this is used primarily on the web. It's to create any functionality on the web. So every time like you click a button on a website and something happens, that is most likely JavaScript in the background running. And we're going to use a specific library of JavaScript called P5. And that is built, that's basically a set of commands in JavaScript specifically to make art and generative art quite easily. So I'll first show you what we're going to make. And this might look very silly, but I think it's funny. So we're going to create this little app, and it creates a bunch of different faces, different eyes, different mouths, different colors, and there'll be a button that you can click, and every time it will generate new faces. You can do this infinitely. And yeah, so at the end, yeah, you'll have this file. You could put it on a website theoretically. You can even download these files and import it into Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, or do whatever. Now, this might seem like a silly little thing to make, but these concepts, you can use these concepts to do almost anything. So this is just like the basics of what P5 can do. And then you can use apply these concepts to do whatever you want, really. So to begin, so if you open your file, oops, sorry, not a file. You open the file I sent you. Oops, I did that not. Okay, try this. Okay, so the P5 template file, or in Chad's case, just whatever you're looking at, it's fine. This is just a template of P5. So you don't really need to know what this stuff means at the moment, but it's a HTML file, and a HTML file is what you would upload to the internet. And again, you don't need to know this, but these two lines, these are just calling, these two lines allow us to use the P5 library. So we're just importing a bunch of information into our little file here. You don't need to know how this works. It's not important for our purposes. But the most important part is these 4 or 5 lines here, where it says function setup, bracket, and then curly brace. So all the code we write is going to be in this function. So it's going to be between this curly brace and this curly brace. Okay. And it's called setup because this is the initial material we want in our sketch. So we're setting everything up. I'm just going to get a preview going here.
I don't see the email you sent.
Oh.
Thing, yeah.
Are you using the browser editor?
Yeah, that.
You don't need the file in that case. Yeah. Yeah. So in your case, Chad, you will see a function setup, and you'll also see function draw.
I see that.
Just ignore draw for the moment.
Okay.
That's something different. So you will be writing everything. You're looking at the same thing, just everything will be in function setup.
You see that. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So the first line we see here, this is a command. It's called create canvas. And then we see a bunch of numbers and SVG. You can actually take out SVG because that might cause problems in the future. Yes. So this is a command. Can you guess what create canvas does? It creates a canvas. This is the beauty of P5. It's very intuitive. Create canvas, it creates a canvas. And what these two numbers mean, this is the width and the height of the canvas. So if we change a number to say 400, it gets narrower. We change to 300, it gets narrower again. So this is just the height, and this is the width, I'm sorry. And this one here is the height. So that's all those two numbers mean. You can make it whatever you want, but the way I've worked everything out, it's based on counts of 500, 500. So later you can change if you want, but it's probably easier to follow along if we keep it the same size. The next line we see background. Now the background command in P5, this just dictates the color of the canvas, the background. And this actually takes 3 numbers, but you can also just do 1 number. So P5 we're talking about colors in P5, it works on the RGB color space. Does anyone know what RGB means? Red, green, blue. Yeah. Yeah. So RGB is red, green, blue. So what that means is in order to dictate a color, you just input values for red, you input values for green, you input values of green, blue, and they range from 0, which means none of that particular color, up to 255, which is a full amount of that color. So we put in, if we input 0, 0, 0, that's no color, that's black. So if we get, if you put in full red, which is 255, we get a red background. If we, then add some green, we get a yellow background. If we add all 255, we get a white background. So, if we go this 0, we get some kind of magenta, or magenta. So for this, I'm going to start with a white background because we're going to be drawing our lines will be black. So we don't want a black background because then we won't be able to see the lines. Oh, sorry, 255. So 255 is full white. Also, if when you're dealing with colors, if you only put in one, if you put in one color, that works in the gray scale. So you put in just 0, it's black. If you put in 100, it's like a shade of gray. 255 is white. So we're gonna have a white background. So now we have a background. It's white and it is 500 pixels by 500 pixels. So we're gonna start drawing. So the first shape we're going to draw is what we call an ellipse. That is a fancy word for circle. So we're going to be drawing a circle. To do that, we just type out the word ellipse and we write 2 parentheses, an opening and closing parentheses. Okay, so now similar to create canvas and background, ellipse also takes numbers inside the parentheses. Those are called arguments. So the ellipse takes up to 4 arguments. The first number we put in is the X position of where we want to place the ellipse. So, our canvas runs 500, 500. So if you remember from math class, the X-axis runs horizontally, the Y-axis runs vertically. So first number is the X coordinate. The second number is the Y coordinate. So we're on the vertical axis where it appears. And the next 2 numbers are the size of the ellipse in pixels. First number, the third number being the width of the ellipse, the fourth number being the height. So we do 100, 100, 100, 100. We have an ellipse at position X 100, position Y 100, and it has a diameter of 100. So if we wanted to move this to the right, what do you think we would do? Any ideas? What would we change? Which number would we change?
X one?
Yeah, that's right. We could just change this to say 150 and it shifts to the right, or 350 goes further to the right. If we want to move it down, we just change the Y position, goes down. If we change the width, the bigger, it's kind of oblong, it stretches out that way. Or if we change the height, as you might predict, it'll grow taller. So for now, let's just put a circle of 100 diameter at position 100, 100. This is the beginning of our faces. So as you can see, these faces, these are obviously very simple drawings. And it's just basically 5 ellipses. 1 for the face, 2 for the eyes, 1 for the nose, 1 for the mouth. So what we need to do next is draw something else. So we can do that by drawing another ellipse. So we can just copy that, paste it. So if we copy and paste, we have 2 ellipses on top of each other. Now, if you notice in your preview, nothing has changed. The reason being is that, as you might guess, one ellipse is just placed on top of the other one, so you can't see it. This is a 2D sketch, so it is there, but you just can't see it. And we can prove that by shifting one of them to the right, and you can see now there's 2 ellipses. So what we want to do, we want to turn one of these, we want to turn the second ellipse into an eye. And as you probably guess, the eye is much smaller than the face. It's a little bit above the center, and it's a little bit to the left and to the right of the center and the X and the Y, I'm sorry. So any ideas? How can we do that? Why don't you fiddle with yourselves, try to make an eye? This will take some tinkering. All of this takes tinkering. And there's no right or wrong answer, really. Well, there is. All right, so unless you have some semblance of an eye. So this is up to you. We will change this going forward, but at the moment, I put it in as 80, 80. So 20 pixels back from the center and 20 pixels down from the center, or 20 pixels up from the center, I should say, and a diameter of 20 and 20. I'm sure whatever you have is fine. We'll change it going forward, but that's what I have for now. Now to make another eye, we just copy this again. Paste. And we change these arguments. So I'm going to keep mine somewhat symmetrical. So it's 20 for the left. So I'm going to go 20 up for the right. The Y position will stay the same because the eyes are usually level. They don't have to be, I guess, but, and the size will be the same. They don't have to be. You could make one a little bit wonky. But I'm going to keep mine the same for now. Now, what I recommend doing above the first ellipse, it's much easier to read your code if you write comments, basically just telling yourself what this line of code means. So to write comments in JavaScript, we do two, are they backslashes or forward slashes? Two forward slashes. Okay, 2 forward slashes. And you can name it, whatever, but I'm going to say head for this one because this is the head. And then for this one, these are the eyes. So now we need to draw we'll comment out a nose. And as you might guess, it's just drawing another ellipse. It's up to you where you put it, but I'm going to do roughly. No, what did I do last time? I did nose I did plus 10. Oops. And I made my nose a little bit smaller than the eyes, but it's up to you. No right or wrong answer here. And as you might guess, for the mouth, we do another ellipse. And we choose its position. What did I choose here? 100, 130. So the mouth is most likely, lower than the center on the y-axis. So we make that a bigger number. And yeah, most of the mouths you'll see, they're usually a little bit longer than they are, or I guess wider, I guess they are, than they are tall. But you can do whatever you want. But so just for now, I'm going to make mine slightly wider. Oh, goodness. So 59 and 90. I don't know why I did that, but whatever. Numbers don't really matter for now because we will be changing them. So does everyone have a face?
Yeah.
Hooray. Jad, you got a face?
Pretty close. Almost. Almost there.
Okay. So the first really important concept that might take a little bit to get your head around is we want to be, so we want to, what we've done here, we have hard coded all of these numbers. So we have manually put in all these numbers. So to change them, you know, we would have to go through all, like if we want to, for example, shift this face to the right, I mean, how would we do that? We would have to go to the face, make it 150, but then everything else is off. So then we have to come down here, move this one over, this one over. So what we can do is instead of what we call hard coding these numbers, we can set them to equal a variable. Now, again, you might remember a variable from math class, but this is a number that can change. And you can make it, eventually we can make it change automatically and the computer will be doing it for us. So to declare a variable in JavaScript, we use the word let. So the first variable we want to make the position for the face. So I like to call this something like pos, P-O-S, X. So that means the X position of the face. So what is that currently? What is the position, the X position? It's 100. So let's set it for 100. And then we can do the same. We can make a Y position for the face, which is also 100. So the X position is 100, the Y position is 100. So now we can change these hard-coded numbers in the head ellipse. We can change those to equal the variable. So these do not have to be numbers. These can also be variables. So once you do that, change the X and the Y to pos X and pos Y. Nothing will change. Nothing has changed, I'm sorry. But if you change the variable now, the face will move. But now we're still have the same problem. We move the head, but the eyes aren't moving. So what we need to do is we need to tie the eyes, the nose, and the mouth to the position of the face. So this is going to depend on you. So what you write might be a little bit different, but my nose, I had it smack in the middle, so it stays at 100. So it's exactly position X. The Y, I had 10 pixels down. So that means it's position Y minus 10, or I'm sorry, plus 10, plus 10. So now if I come here and change the position X variable to say 150, the nose moves with the face. Oops, that's too much. So those are linked now. So now we need to do the same for the eyes and the mouth. So again, your numbers might be a little bit different from mine, but my mouth was at 100, which is the same as position X. So it's in the center. It's 30 pixels down from the center on my Y axis. 130 I had it at. So I will go position X plus 30, or I'm sorry, position Y plus 30. And rinse and repeat for the eyes. So the first eye I had was 80, which is 20 less than position X. So I do pos X minus 20. And the Y is also 20 less than pos Y. That's the left eye. And the right eye is 20 more than position X. So I do position X plus 20. Position Y minus 20. Is this making sense?
I think I'm lost.
Okay, you might be lost. What do you?
About 2 minutes ago, I got lost. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna have time to do the last. So now I'm just so yeah, so I'm here. I don't know why I'm
Yeah, so what we're doing here is we are tying the position of the eyes, the mouth, and the nose
Right.
relative to the position of the head.
Right.
So what you have here, like your first eye is 75,
Mhm.
which is 25 points less than position X.
Sure.
So if we change that to position X minus 25,
Mhm.
and this one, your right eye,
Mhm.
it's 20 above position X.
Mhm.
We do position X plus 20.
Okay, all right.
And then you do the same for the Y coordinate,
Okay,
out to position Y.
okay. Okay, right. So then I go pause X, minus, minus 25.
Yeah, that's the equivalent to 75, which
Right.
we get.
Yes, and this would be, plus 20.
Yep.
That's really pause X. Okay, cool, so then it just kind of,
Yeah, and then you do the same for the nose and the same for the mouth,
okay, cool.
depending on, yeah.
Okay, so then. Follow this tree again, anything else?
I think you seem to have the nose smack in the middle on the X and the Y. Maybe you want this means it's right in the middle. Pause X and pause Y means it's 100. And that seems to work with your face.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Cool. And then the mouth, you probably have to drop it down a little bit.
Yes.
So for the Y one, you have to be pause Y plus some number.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't even have this anywhere that made. Oops.
Good.
Yeah, I just brought it.
Any questions?
It's okay.
It's not facial.
It is a lot of math, though. It reminds me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to visualize at first, but
I guess once you get used to it.
yeah, it's like anything, I suppose. So the biggest thing we're missing is color, obviously. So we can do this many ways, but the way I did it, my eyes are a different color, and my face, nose, and mouth are the same. They look a little bit different, but I'll explain why that is in a second. But so so to do color, okay, so when you're writing code, it goes from top to bottom. So if we set a color for the head, for example, the way we do this in P5, there's two types of color. There's fill and stroke. So we want to be adjusting the fill color. So that means the ellipse will be filled with a certain color. And as before, this works on the RGB scale. So it doesn't really matter, but we input 3 numbers ranging from 0 to 255. We do, just for example, 0, 200, 200. We have some kind of cyan color, I guess you'd call that. And you'll notice that not only is the face this color, but the nose, the mouth, and the eyes they've also inherited this color because it trickles down the whole way. So we can interrupt that by changing the color on the nose to a different fill if we want. So we can do, I don't know, whatever, 100, 0, 50, whatever. And if you do that, you'll notice everything. So the head is one color, then a new color has taken over and it has affected everything below it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I personally want to do, and you don't have to do this, but this is what I want to do. I want the head, nose, and mouth to be the same color. I want the eyes to be a different color. So I'm going to take this one out from the nose. And I'm just going to pop it into eyes. So that's the last thing I have on my list. So the nose and the mouth have inherited the color of the face, and the eyes are something different. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
One more time.
Okay, so we have a head, nose, mouth, and eyes. So to color something, we write the word fill, And then
Yes.
we give it 3 colors.
Yeah.
And so what I have here, and if you look at the order of how I have this, I have the head, which is above the nose and also above the mouth.
Yeah,
So the nose and the mouth are taking the same color as the head.
yes, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. So
And to answer or so how do you interrupt it?
you interrupt it by writing another line. So I wrote another different fill right before the eyes.
Okay, and then yeah.
And then that one takes over. So if I did another ellipse below this somewhere, then it would take the same color as the eyes until I interrupt it with another one.
Okay.
So that's our eyes. Now there's one more argument that fill can take, or any color can take, and this is called opacity. So opacity determines how transparent a color is. So it can take 4 numbers. If you do 0, it means it's completely transparent. And goes up to 255, which is full opaque. So what you'll notice here, if I do say opacity of 100, that means it's semi-transparent. And you'll notice that the nose and the mouth are darker. That's because I have, what I have here is my face is some shade of blue with 100 opacity. Then my nose is that same shade of blue, also with 100 opacity. So it's getting darker. If I put another one on top of that, it would be darker again. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's why it looks the way it is. They look to be different colors, but they are the same color. It's just they're stacked on top of each other. Okay. So yeah, you can set the opacity whatever you want. I'm just going to leave it at 100 just to illustrate this point a little bit. And maybe I'll do the same for the eyes. Why not? Looks kind of creepy at the moment, but okay. So at the moment, as I mentioned before, we have hard coded all of this stuff. So we have been making all of the decisions, and the hallmark of generative art is that the computer makes some of the decisions for us. So we're not just doing everything manually. We need to let the computer do something. So one fun way to do that is by introducing randomization into these numbers. And that's quite easy to do. I'm just going to plug in my computer before I go on my knees. So at the moment, we can't randomize many things besides the position because we have, like I said, we've hard coded all of these numbers. So we need to change the numbers we want to randomize into variables, just like we did with position X and just like we did with position Y. So the first thing I think would be fun to randomize is the colors. So what we can do is we can write some new variables. So we can let's call the first one R for red, and we set it equal to something. It's very easy to make random numbers in P5. All you do is you write the word random with an opening and closing parenthesis. And the random function takes 2 arguments. It takes the lower limit of the range and the higher limit of the range. So colors range from 0 to 255. So we can choose a random number between 0 and 255. So now the computer will decide how much red goes into our color. Now, once you write this, you'll notice nothing's changed because we have not used this variable anywhere. So any ideas where would we put R?
The fill.
Yeah, where in the fill?
Wherever we want.
You could do wherever you want, theoretically, but I think it would make the most sense to put it as the first number because the first number is red. It's an RGB workspace, so it's the first number is red. So if we take out that 0 and put it in as R, and then if we reload the screen, to reload the screen, by the way, you can just go to some blank line and hit space and it will refresh every time. You'll now see that the computer is generating a random R value. So sometimes it'll look quite similar. Sometimes it'll be pink like this, kind of gray like this. So now the R has been randomized, the red has been randomized. So what we can do, we can copy this line and write another one for G, which is green. So now we let green equal a random number between 0 and 255. And we can change this hard-coded number to the variable G in our fill. So now the computer is determining a random number for red and a random number for green. So we're getting a bit more variation. And we can do it again. We can copy this line and do the same for blue. In our fill line, we can change the third value to B for blue. And finally, we can do the same for opacity. We can call that O for opacity. Oh. So now when we refresh, we have a truly random number. There's, I think 16 million. No, there's more than 16 million. There's 16 million color possibilities plus the opacity. So it's whatever 16 million times 255 is. Virtually unlimited. Just in color. And so at the moment, when we refresh this, it's only the face, the nose, and the mouth that are changing color because the eyes have taken a new set of values, and these are hard-coded, so they're not changing. So to change those, to randomize those, we would need to do the same. So we can just copy all of this, paste it below it, but then we need to change what the variable is. We could do, say, I red, I G for green. When I say I mean EYE, okay, eyeball. So I red, I G, I blue, I. Let's see. You might notice that I'm capitalizing these letters. You don't need to capitalize it, but it's a JavaScript convention to do that just because it's easier to read. Like, this doesn't need to be capitalized. You can call it a variable whatever you want. You can call it complete nonsense if you want. And then we come down to the fill color for the eyes, and we put in those colors. I red, I green, I blue, and I opacity. Is this making sense? I'm just like rambling to myself, and you can also you can change the range of randomness. So like if you want less red,
Yeah.
so you're doing something kind of interesting. You are writing this. Yeah, you have written this in the draw function, and draw is a little bit different because it means it keeps.
Oh, I should put it up here.
Yeah, you need to put it to itself. We don't need to. So if you just take everything you've written
Yeah.
and cut it out and put it into cell.
Within this bracket.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit enter on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Including that. Not function.
Okay.
No need to do function.
This drop.
No, yeah, you starting that.
Oh, okay.
And you before the, yeah, right.
So is draw for animation?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's primary for animation. So the draw function, yeah, it basically, the draw function keeps looping. It keeps calling itself again and again. So whatever you make happen, it'll keep going. Cool. So what Rachel had on her screen, or still on her screen, it keeps looping, so the colors are changing. Do you know what's happening?
Oh, yeah, it's just going.
So here it's in the draw function. So this keeps drawing something. Yeah, this is how you use that. Cool.
And like if you wanted to move a face, you change the, say, X position,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And then it would continuously, say like X position plus, and whatever, plus one, you would start to move
It
it.
starts. Yeah, that's exactly how you do it. Yeah. There's a way to do a D setup as well, and we can do that. We have to do that. It's not so hard. Yeah, do you want to see how you do that right now? I wasn't planning to show you this, but who cares? Do it anyway. So I'm just gonna do this. Give me a hot second. So we need a function as well. Oops.
Well,
So this is what Rachel's was doing. You never thought to ask what the hell's going on. Oops. Okay, anyway, I'll just leave this for now. So yeah, if this was in draw, all you'd have to do is, for example, change position X equals whatever position X is plus, say, 10. So now every time it runs, it's moving. We could do the same, if we go position Y, make it go down diagonal, whatever position Y is, that's 10. Woo! But yeah, that's animation.
So. What we like, made it. What happened then?
It goes faster.
Oh, that's.
It's effectively the speed.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not actually the speed, but because we're increasing the location by 1 pixel,
That's what.
it's moving slower. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the TV screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there is a way, like we could learn how to make it bounce, but that gets kind of deep in the weeds. It's actually a lot more difficult than you'd think it is to do stuff like that. But yeah, you can do that. And like you can also change like the frame rate in P5. I think 60 is the default. I'm not sure about that, but oh, that's still very slow. Oh, okay. I don't know why it's so slow, but anyway, yeah, you can change the frame rate. But yeah, I wasn't planning on doing this today, but yeah, we can afterwards we can do it if you're so inclined. But yeah, so at the moment it's in setup. So setup only runs once, and the function draw it runs again and again and again and again. Does that make sense? Okay. So we have a face. Where are we? Got totally derailed. Face, randomized color. We've changed the fill. Have we changed the eye color? Yes, we have. Good. Okay, we're almost done, believe it or not. The other thing we can do is, as you'll notice, the eyes and the mouth, every time you hit new face, they get bigger or smaller. They're randomized. So how do you think we could randomize the size of the eyes? Any idea?
We do the same for them. Just with the sizes.
Yes.
By saying the last, I forget what that is called.
It's to create a variable. Yep. Yep. So we create a new variable and we can tie it to the size of the eye. So we could call it, size. What did I call it last time? Size I think I called it.
And we want to make it like under certain parameters as to make sense.
Yeah, this is definitely going to take some guessing and checking because it's hard to visualize how big it will look. I'm actually going to call this X, IX, but it doesn't matter. You can call it whatever makes sense in your head, but I'm going to call mine IX and IY. So that's like the X being the width of the eye and Y being the height of the eye. And now this will take some guessing and checking. You might get some funny results when you do this, but I think I wrote mine as IX was, okay. So this is a little bit more complicated because we want to tie this to the size of the face. Okay. So first, actually, we should probably make a size of the face. So let size be now, say 100, because that's the size of the face right now. Actually, let's make, sorry. So we can make a size X and a size Y, just in case in the future we want to change the shape of the face, we can make a size X and size Y for the face. And they are 100. So we have a size X, size Y for the face. Now we want to tie the size of the eye, which I've called IX. We want to make that a function of the size of the face because we don't want the eye bigger than the face. That wouldn't make any sense. So if we do IX equals size X minus some value, and that value can be randomized. So we can do, you know, random between, I don't know, 20 and 80. Let's just try. I'm not sure how this will look, so it will take some guessing and checking. So then we can take this variable IX and we can input it in the eye size. So down where we drew eyes, our first ellipse, we have the position, and this is the size here. So IX. And then we can do the same for the height of the eye. So we can do IY equals, again, I don't know what the ideal size is, but let's just try what we have here. IY. Now this, what I wrote here doesn't look very appropriate, but so what I figured out was best in my mind was what 60 and 100 was the range I figured out was pretty good. So this is kind of hard to get your head around, but so what we're doing here is we are subtracting this random number from the size of the face. So the bigger this number is, the smaller the eye will be. Because the size of the eye is a function of the size of the face minus some number. So, you know, if we make these numbers super small, the eye is going to get bigger. Oh, I'm sorry. So we want these to be relatively big-ish. I think 60. What did I say? It was 60 and 100. And so I did the same for the height of the eye, 60 and 100. Again, you don't have to follow my numbers, but this is what I'm working with. So now you see when we randomize this, the eye changes. Now we see only one eye is changing because we've only applied this variable to one eye. So if you want the eyes to be the same shape, which you don't necessarily want, but I'm going to do it for the sake of argument, we have to change the variables on the second eye. And if you want, you can do 4 variables for the eyes so that both eyes are different every time, if you were so inclined. But I'm going to keep mine the same. So now every time we reload it, the eyes become different sizes and different shapes.
Don't know why. No, no.
That's probably because you haven't applied that variable to yourself.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's one of the things. So where would I apply it? We're gonna fill it in here. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, so the size of the last two.
So, yeah, right.
So you put in IX and all that.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually add, you can probably,
I can.
and then every time it makes a change, you don't need to hit it.
Oh, good. I didn't play it.
And yeah, if you just like, you can, every time you make a change.
I'll go on. Oh, that's great.
So here's our face. And last thing we want to change, well, last thing I have changed is the mouth. So this is a very similar concept for the mouth. I call it mouth X and mouth Y. So we set a variable for the mouth X equals, how did I write this last time? Size X 1500. So again, the same concept. The mouth should probably be a function of the face because you don't want the mouth bigger than the face. That would not make sense. Random between 50 and 75. And I'm just going to copy and paste this. So I chose for the mouth, or for the width of the mouth, a random number between 50 and 100, and for the height of the mouth, a random number between 75 and 100. But it's up to you. It's your sketch. You can do as you see fit. But then we come down here and change the number in the mouth to our variable. So mouth X and mouth Y. That's very cute. Even though he has red eyes. So now, once you have that done, we have everything randomized except the nose, but so the eyes are different shapes and different colors. The mouth, different shape and size. So that's the basic functionality of how to generate one face. Okay. But if you notice in my finished product, we have 9 faces. Okay. Now you might think the way to make 9 faces is to copy and paste all of this 9, or I guess 8 more times to produce 9 faces. But anyone know why that might not be a good idea? That's true. It will end up on top of each other. Yep, that's true. Any other problems? The other problem is that all the variables will be the same. So if we just copy and paste everything, then it will actually get an error because we'll keep defining the same variables. So we need to change those every time. So the way in JavaScript to repeat a bunch of code is to use something called a loop. And the one we will use is called a for loop. Now, this is a very tangly bit of syntax you're about to see here. And you don't really need to understand exactly what's happening, but I'll just tell you the basics. So to do a for loop, we write the word for, opening and closing parentheses. In the parentheses, first we declare a variable, and we will call it I. Call it I because it's an initial value, and we will set this initial value to 0. Then we'll do a semicolon, and we will do I. Just for now, we'll do less than 3. So what this is basically saying is that when we start this loop, I equals 0, and then the code runs through this and it questions, is I less than 3? If it is less than 3, then we will do something. If it's not less than 3, then the loop will end and we're finished. And then the next thing in this parenthesis is I plus plus. And that just means that we are increasing I by 1, by an increment of 1. And then at the end of the parenthesis, we will do a curly bracket and a couple spaces because we need to write some code in this curly bracket. So again, this is confusing. You don't really need to understand what's going on. But basically, long story short, whatever we write in these curly braces will be repeated whatever this number is. So in this case, it will be repeated 3 times. Okay. Does that kind of halfway make sense? Okay, so what we want to do is we want to loop through everything we want to repeat. So that is all of this except for the initial position. So starting at where we wrote the variables, we want to cut all of this out up until the loop. And we want to put it inside the loop. So we cut it out and move it inside these two curly brackets. So what's happening now is if we look at the code, we've created a canvas is 500, 500. We've created a background is white. We've declared a position X and a position Y. So that's the initial position of the first face. And then we have this for loop. And everything within this for loop is repeated 3 times.
Well, wait, you pasted it and then you deleted it from the top.
I cut it and
Okay.
pasted. Yeah. So you copy pasted and then deleted.
Oh.
You can cut with Command X that deletes and yeah.
All right, sure.
Does this make sense? What I'm trying to say? Okay. Yes.
I got some crazy concern.
Yes, and that's. It is. I'll show you. Okay, so what we actually have here now.
I think, yeah, it's just, this is it now.
Yeah. So what we have here, we've run into the very problem that Chad anticipated. What we have here, if you look closely and if there's some opacity in your colors, you can actually see that there's more than one face there, but they're stacked on top of each other. And the reason is because we have not shifted this initial position. They're all located at 100, 100. So what we need to do is at the end of this loop, so all of this code is being repeated once, then it starts at the beginning, it's repeated again and again. So what we need to do is every time this loop is about to end, we need to adjust the starting position. And so what we can do is we simply write position X, or say POS X, and we can set it equal to whatever position X is at the time plus some number. I'm going to say 150.
Okay, I have 3.
You have 3.
Why is it 3 and like not anything else?
Because we have set this number up here in when we declared the for loop, we declared 3. So if we change this number to 2, it would only loop through twice.
Sure.
If we change it to 1, we just get 1 face. So 3. Now, if we try to loop it 4 times, you'll notice that there's still only 3 faces.
That's because it's the size of the canvas.
Yes, exactly. So to prove that it is indeed there, we can change the size of the canvas to make it wider, and you can see if I change to 9, they are all there. They're just, it's cut off from the canvas. Yeah.
Sorry, but I don't know what I did, but mine are just still on top of each other. I think right here I have it wrong.
Yeah, you need that as position X.
X,
Yeah. Because
and it's still. Yeah.
That should definitely be working.
You are missing a color. Oh, here's the curly bracket. Okay, it's always the dumbest little problems that you would never notice. So yeah, it's the two curly brackets, everything that is in the loop must be between these two curly brackets. So you had this just outside of it. So it's so every time it loops through, that wasn't being called. So what you need to do is move this into the loop. It's now, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you.
There's a big hit.
Yes.
Those nodes, wow.
So E has the.
Okay, that's probably because, yeah, so, yeah, you need to tie the mouse position.
Oh,
Those two numbers, you need to tie it to
Oh, like
the face. Yeah, so what you have here, this is
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, you didn't do those.
Yeah. Oh, that's. So. And there's. And there, okay, that makes sense. Okay, that's big.
Actually, that's okay.
Okay. I was trying to see what it's like if I want to notice it's change size.
Okay, yeah, that's fun to do.
Okay, any questions at the moment? So the last thing we need to do really is, as you can see in mine, there's 3 rows. So now then this is a very important concept in all programming, but we need to somehow write some kind of logic that moves these faces down once it gets to a certain point. So first we need to figure out what that point is. So our first face was drawn at 100. The next face was drawn, as we see here, 150 pixels to the right. So now we're at 250. Third is another 150. So we're at 400 pixels is the center of this thing, this face. So what we want to do is after this face, we want these to drop in the Y. So this is the exact same concept as, when you have a word processor and you're typing. When you get to the end of the line, it doesn't keep going. There's a line break, right? It starts at the beginning. So this is the exact same logic that uses. So what we need to do is basically say, if we get past this point, which is 400, then we need to change the Y position. Okay. So what we do for that is we create something called an if statement. So we're basically saying if. So if something happens, then do something. So what we want to do is say, if the position X is greater than 400. So if position X is some number greater than 400, then we do something else. We do that with a curly bracket. So nothing has changed yet. Just to repeat. So the position X is 100 here, position X is 350 here. I'm sorry. Position X is 100 here, 250 here, 400 here. So if we get to the point where we are beyond that, we want to move these down. So if position is greater than 400, then what can we do? Any ideas? Yeah, yeah. We change the position Y, exactly. So we set position Y to whatever position Y is plus some number. Let's try 150. So what you're seeing now is we are indeed increasing the Y, but the X is also increasing. And that's because we haven't told the computer to revert back to here. A computer will only tell you, well, it will only do exactly what you tell it to do. And we have not told it to move this face back to here. So any ideas how we could tell a computer to do that? So we've increased the position, or we've increased the Y position. What do we need to do to the X position? Any ideas? What's that? Yeah, we can bring it down. We can reset it to 100, the initial starting point.
I still only have 3.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then different things start, is it supposed to be?
yeah, it's supposed to be done.
And then I'm supposed to
Yep, that's true.
do 7. I just can't see them, and I haven't done this part yet.
Oh, okay.
So will they come up once I write that in?
Yep, it should.
So. Okay. Yeah.
Three faces.
Yeah. What are you saying about 9?
So when we have this for loop,
Yeah.
this number here determines how many times the code is run. So you're only running about 3 times.
Okay.
So if you want 9 faces,
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. That makes sense.
they can check.
Vanished. That seems to be the same thing that you have there. Maybe, no, wait a minute, no, I can find out. Yeah, no.
Let me see. Okay, this is really talking about the function value. So you're missing the value. Actually, just. There you go.
So I have 3.
Yes, so if you go up to the beginning of the floor, the floor. Yeah, so this line here, this dictates how many times this code is run. So you only have a set of 3.
Okay,
So
so
going to 9, then you would that code run.
so 9.
Then what you need to do, so you do have, there are 9 faces, but they're going off your canvas.
Yeah.
So what you also need to do is increase, yeah, you increase that, and now you need to increase the X position. I mean, sorry, reset the X position.
Oh, right.
Oh, sorry, yeah, position Y, it should be equal to position Y.
Oh, that's what I did. Okay, cool. Man.
Always something.
Man. Yeah.
Literally, it's always the silly.
Oh, how's that?
9 faces.
All right, so these are our 9 faces. The only thing we're missing is our snazzy little new faces button. This is very simple and kind of boring, but oops. So all we do in P5, so to do a button, so we create a variable and we need to call it something. I think I called it button, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so I called it button. And P5 makes this very simple. The command is, no, what is it? Button create or create button? Create button. So let button equal create button. So we are creating a button. And then we can write whatever we want to say. I call it new faces. So when it says new faces, you can say refresh or hello. It doesn't matter what you want to write there. So we declare a button called create button. And then we have to set some position to that button. Now the syntax is a little bit strange, but we set the property by doing button dot position. And the position I chose was width divided by 2. So that's the X position. So width divided by 2 means the width of the canvas divided by 2. So it will be smack in the middle of the canvas. And then I did height, I think plus 25 or something. So it's a little bit below the canvas, but still visible. So now we have a button, but the button does not do anything yet because we have not tied any functionality to it yet. Does everyone have the button drawn for now? Yeah. So now we need to add some functionality, and this, again, P5 makes this pretty easy. So we write button, and we add another property called mouse pressed. So what that means is when we press the mouse on the button, something happens. And what is that something? Is that we call the function setup. So we click the button and the code runs back to the beginning to set up and it starts again.
You lost my face. Did it spell?
I think it might be, oh, yeah, a couple of things.
Oh.
This space. Oh, there's that.
Okay. Oh, I must. The spaces right there.
Maybe canvases. I don't think that it's.
Okay,
So
I
the
just
side-
felt button.
So that's basically the whole thing that I have. So this is the exact same program that I have.
Okay, so let's say now we have this. And like. How does this become its own web page? The same way I would make a web page normally?
Yes. So if so you guys are a little bit different because you're using the browser thing, but if you save that, I recommend saving it as under a different name, but so just save it as faces.html. So this means it's a HTML file, and HTML files are what run in the browser. So if you save that to your desktop and double click it, the browser will open. So you are now, I'm in Chrome, and here's my little program, and I'm doing it. Now, this is not live on the internet, but if you had a server, you would simply just drag this in and connect it to some domain name, and that would be a live website. You could direct your friends to this, and they could be clicking away on their computers. Yeah, so you have to save it as a HTML file and then upload that HTML file to a server. You guys, you can save your sketches on the browser. So if you have this code, this is what they're looking at, this type of this editor. You can save it, but I think you need to set up an account, but you just go to save under file.
Downloaded it. And it gave me a zip file.
Okay. And what's in the zip file?
There's an HTML index.html, p5.js, p5.sound.
Yeah, double click the index.html. It should open in the browser.
Okay, this is a little bit tricky because you kind of need to,
Is that because it's in this browser thing? This is what pop up.
yes, this is watching. Okay. So yeah, this is tricky because
Yeah.
it's kind of need to do this in the editor, but
Oh, okay.
okay, what's probably happening is in your HTML file, the HTML file is probably almost complete, except it's calling this,
Okay.
but you kind of probably have it on server.
Yeah,
But so if you did upload these to server, it would,
it would be fun. I would say that.
or if you brought that all into Atom, do you download that?
Oh, I haven't yet.
Yeah, but if you brought all those files into Atom, then you can see it.
Any other questions? I have some interesting challenges if you want some challenges. And again, level 2 face generation. Again, and this is very silly, but the basis of this, you can do so much with just these simple commands. You can do the crazy lines and shapes, whatever. Challenges. Okay. Can we make the gap between the eyes random? Can we make the gap between the eyes random? How could we do that? Do you want to take a moment to think about it before I spoil all the fun?
Do you like make their Y position? No, no.
Will I give you?
Exposition.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
I think so.
I don't know. Um,
So the eyes right now, their starting positions are position X. If I've got position X minus 20, position Y minus 10. But we could change that into the numbers.
Yeah. Now, if you want to keep the eyes on the same level, you would keep the Y position the same,
Yeah.
and you could randomize the X position. Want to try that yourselves? It's okay.
They're getting weirder.
They can get super weird, yeah. And he looks spooky.
yeah.
Oh, no.
There's eyes everywhere.
I think probably what is happening is these are huge. Okay, so what did you write? What did you write?
This is for, I published for, what did I write? Gas,
Yeah, CapEx between 2 and 5.
and then I used it. But,
Okay, it's. There's no right or wrong, but it's kind of. Because so how we had it before was that it was tied to the position, it was tied to the, yeah, the position of the face.
right, liver. Right,
So you have now removed that
right,
tie. So how do you get it back?
why did you bring it?
Yeah.
But I don't know how to incorporate the,
So it's essentially the exact same thing. So position X instead of 20, you're putting a random number. So you do position X plus a random number. However, when you do that, you might notice that because your numbers are randomly between 200 and 500,
yeah.
that's
and the
huge. Yeah,
Right,
that's why they're going.
okay. Wire.
Maybe we'll check.
I'm not. I'm a lot of mobs going on. This guy has all of their face filled with. It's- These people have their faces.
Yeah, I think you've made. I think you know it's actually good. I think that's this guy. Maybe no side. Nose is. Oh, so you have those. Oh, so it's not. Oh, no, it's not. This is fine. So what's it here? Okay, so your mouth is actually located smack in the middle of the face. So you want to move that down. So you can go position X plus some number, maybe. Or sorry, position Y.
Yeah.
Like maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, the mouth is still quite big. So you might want to adjust the mouth X, maybe the mouth Y. Or sorry, the mouth Y is not too big. So you're choosing random between. That's really much. I did between, try it, I did 75 and 100 in that Y.
But there's still the question of why they have their eyes.
What their eyes are up there. Oh, because you told it the position Y. So you need to do a similar thing with position X minus 25. You do position Y.
Oh,
Plus,
I
or minus whatever.
didn't put anything in there.
Yeah, so the
Oh,
Y position of your eyes is not tied to the location of the face. Sorry, plus. I did position Y minus 10 is what I thought was.
let's try that.
Yeah, so that's one eye, maybe I do something to that.
Okay, that's. fair.
Yes, okay, the mouth might be a bit big, the eyes. Yeah, so you can make the mouth smaller if you want, and to make the mouth smaller, you increase this random size.
Yes,
So you do that. I think I did between 50 and 75.
yeah.
Or no, I did that between 50 and 100 for X and 75 and 100 for Y. So, how about your eye gaps?
Oh,
Or whatever.
I accidentally rewrote it. I forgot what I had it. Okay, yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so how I did the gap was I made a new variable called There's several ways, there's always several ways to do everything in coding, but the way I did it was made a variable called igap, and I set it to a random number between 10 and 40. And then I just changed the position of the I to position X minus my igap and position X plus my igap. So sometimes they'll be super far apart, sometimes they'll be super close together. Is that essentially what you did, David? Same type of idea?
No idea, I just really broken things.
Do you want another challenge? We could randomize. Ooh, we could get a little bit complex. How about we introduce a different shape altogether? So what we can do, instead of an ellipse, we could make our faces a rectangle. So what I'm going to do is where we have head, the position this, I'm going to make this a comment. So I'm going to go // so that line is no longer functioning. And what I'm going to do below it, I'm going to write the word rect, R-E-C-T. This is very similar to ellipse, except it's drawing a rectangle instead of an ellipse. And so a rectangle is a little bit different. It takes 4 arguments, or it takes 4 arguments, I think, but it's a little bit different. It's the first number is the beginning X position. The second number is the beginning Y position. The third number is the finishing X position. And the fourth number is the finishing Y position. So we do all 100, oh, that doesn't make sense. We do 100, 100, 100, 100. And you'll see we have this huge rectangle. Now that's not what we want, obviously, but what do we want here? Maybe I have. So we can tie this rectangle again to the same variables we had, position X, position Y, size X, or yeah, size X and size Y. And so all I did here was I changed the ellipse into a rectangles. Now you might have your rectangles are way off to the right. That's because by default, rectangles are drawn from the, not from the center, but from the top left corner. So what we need to do, we need to change that default, and we do that at the very top under create canvas. We change the rect mode, R-E-C-T, the M must be capitalized, rect mode, brackets, center. That means the rectangle is now drawn from the center as opposed to the top left-hand corner. Now we have rectangle faces. Now, another interesting thing we can do is we can randomize the chance of having a rectangle face or having a circle face. So what we could do is we do this by writing another if statement just above the rectangle. So we can write if. If what? So let me, before I say this out loud, so let me make sure this works. Should work, I think. Yes. Okay, so what we can do, we can write an if statement. So if, and then a bracket, random 1, as you see here. This means if a random number between 0 and 1 is greater than 0.5, then we have a curly bracket, our rectangle command, and then a closing curly bracket. So what this means is that if this random number between 0 and 1 is greater than 0.5, then we draw a rectangle. But if it's less than 0.5, nothing is happening. So we need to write another command if it's less than 0.5. So to do that, we use the word else. Curly bracket. And then in that curly bracket, we can write our ellipse. So what this is, what's happening here is we are choosing a random number between 0 and 1. If that random number is greater than 0.5, then we draw a rectangle. Otherwise, or else, we draw an ellipse. So there's a 50-50 chance of drawing a rectangle, 50-50 chance of drawing a circle. And every time you hit a new face, sometimes there'll be a lot of rectangles. Sometimes there'll be, there's always a lot of rectangles. And we can change that. We can change this 0.5 value. So we can do, if it's bigger than 0.75, that would mean there's more of a chance of an ellipse happening. And we can do this with any variable we want. So we can, make if statements to randomly determine anything.
I got circles inside of squares.
Circles inside of squares.
I
Ooh, I kind of like that.
don't want to do that, but there's.
Oh, that's because after your if statement, so you do this if statement, but then you also draw a rectangle. So this is being drawn regardless.
Oh.
So you need to remove that one,
Oh, I see.
or you can just comment it. Use it later.
Alright.
Here's David.
Feel like I'm making a lot of noise.
There's a lot going on there. So you this in, so just take out this statement and put it above put it below like the head. So just just remove everything between if and this curly bracket. Including if and including the curly. And put it above the nose, like near the head. Near the head. Yeah, you put it below 4. Yeah, that's fine. You might change the size of the head, so they're too small. So try making those 100, but instead of 50, they get 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 100. 1
Oh, that might.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Why would they such? Not sure.
Must have done some.
Excellent.
It's always the silliest stuff, and it's always how it is. And like, I've spent like hours, like boring on the kind of the reading. It's like, I missed like 15 years, something,
And because it's before the nose, it's covering all the limbs.
No, the opposite actually. So the nose is covering the head. So the head is gone first, and then the nose is on top of that.
Right, so this is why there's no nose.
Oh, you're no. Oh, so you. Oh, I know what you did. I know what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put the nose code in this, so you need to redraw the nose because you moved the nose into this if statement, and now there's no nose at all. So you need to put just another. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, if you do like below that fill, you just
Right.
draw another ellipse, just like you have the same.
Right. Cool. Okay, I understand.
All right, so I got rectangles and circles. Anything else you'd be interested to try, or do you want to try another random challenge? Anything you'd like to be able to possibly do?
Change like the thickness of a line.
Oh, great question. That's a great question. Yep. So the way we do that is with something called stroke weight. So let's try to keep it close to what we're doing. So if you want to do okay, so what you do is you write stroke weight, and this takes one argument, and that's the width. So if it's 0, you can see there's no lines around it. If it's 1, that's like the default. And as you make it bigger, the lines get wider and wider.
Wow.
And so what you could do is you can change the stroke. So as you notice, everything is now thick because everything below this is taking on this characteristic. So if we want the head to be very thick, we can leave that as it is. But if, say, we want the, for example, everything else to be thinner, we can put it, say, under the nose and make it 1. So then everything else is becoming thin again. And so you can make, the nose a certain width, a certain weight, the mouth a certain weight, the eyes a certain weight, or you can have them all the same. I kind of like them all the same. I like a nice.
Can you have the background color change?
Randomly?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. How do you think you do it?
The background random.
Yeah, you just like everything else, you randomize the background color. Where's my background color? I may have deleted it in the process, but anyway, I'd have to try it again. So if I have background of, let's just say it's whatever, 0 for now. So yeah, we can do the exact same process. So we could do, like, for example, a variable called, actually, I'm going to show you something wrong. So back red equals random number between 0 and 255. Back green and back blue. Then we come to background and input the variables. Background red, background green, background blue. Now, I'm going to show you what's happening here. This is not working. Any idea why this isn't working?
Isn't it in order?
It's not in order.
Hoisting.
Yes. Is that what it's called?
I believe so.
Hoisting? I like that word. Yeah. But yeah, okay, hoisting, sure. So yes, as I mentioned earlier, the code runs from top to bottom. So what we have here, we are declaring background with 3 variables, but these variables do not yet exist. So we need to move this below the variables. And now the background is randomized. New faces. Oh, I like this guy here, like a salamander. It looks like you.
No.
It's- oh, I thought you said it looks like me. I'm like, what? Anything else? Anything else we could do interesting here? My original idea was to do cats.
Oh,
But it's so finicky because you need to draw like triangles alone are very difficult. And you need to like position the triangles in such a way. And when things get random, it's a lot of like tinkering around between numbers, but it's possible. You can just add a triangle. I guess we can learn triangle. So to draw a triangle, actually, maybe while we're here, I'll direct you to P5 resources. So p5js.org. So you can go to this website and you can learn basically all the commands there are. If you go to reference, p5.js.org, or sorry, p5js.org, and go to reference. So this is a list of everything you can do with P5. There's a lot of stuff. It can get very complicated very quickly. You can dive into like, logarithms and sine and cosine, all this crazy stuff. But there's some simple stuff like, where's the simple shapes? Shape, yeah. So the 2D primitives are what we've been working with. So there's an ellipse, there's also a circle, line, point, quad, rectangle, and there's triangle. So how do you draw a triangle? That's very simple. Yeah, so it's just the command triangle, and then it takes 6 parameters. So it's the first point, X and Y position, the second point, X and Y position, and the third point, X and Y position. So, if we wanted to draw a cat, this is going to be messy, but I don't even know if I want to do this, to be honest, but let's try. Oh, that's not bad. That's a pretty good starting place, but it's kind of like a party hat, yeah. But you notice the triangle's on top, so we might want that behind the head, right? Because that kind of looks a bit funky. So we would draw it before the head, because then the triangle's drawn and the head is drawn over it. Oh, that didn't work out. Why? Oh, because this weird loop is shagging me up. Oh goodness, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have gone off script. I'm off script and now I'm screwed. Anyway, I don't know. I would have to think about this for a minute, but yeah, you can do that, and you can draw a second triangle for the ears. So we would change. Triangles are tangly because they take so many parameters, but like 40, 75. I don't know. This is stupid. I shouldn't be doing this. This is bad. Whatever. That's 2 ears. Use your imagination, but yeah. So yeah, you can draw cats eventually. Yeah, what else? We could yeah, you can do anything. You can randomize the nose color, randomize the nose shape. You can make the nose a different shape. You can make, okay, one last challenge. Can we make the 2 eyes a different size? You had that question?
Yeah.
Okay, here's your chance. So we can maybe we can make one winking, for example. How could we do that?
So for like the eye.
Yeah.
That we're using I, Y, right? Capital Y.
Yep,
And we're using that for both files,
that's right.
generating a random number and using that for both files. But if we generated two random numbers, then yeah, it's.
Yep, that's exactly how you could do it.
And do the same thing for IX.
You can do the same thing for IX as well. Yep.
Cabinet of horrors.
Good.
This is possible.
I mean, you can choose what you set out to do.
Oh, have you randomized the stroke weight as well?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Um, hmm.
How do you randomize the line? Like on the stroke. Weight is there. Do you just fill stroke?
Which line do you want?
Let's say for my head,
Yeah.
if I want this black to change color,
The
the line itself. Can you change the line? Color of the line?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a good question. So Rachel's asking if we can change the stroke color
Yes.
as opposed to the fill color. And that's very simple. Instead of fill, you say stroke. So this determines the stroke color. So if you want like a red, you go 255.00. And then of course you could randomize the stroke like everything else. That would be done like, I don't know, stroke red, I guess, I don't know. Stroke red, stroke green, stroke blue.
You also don't need to create those variables, because you can put them in.
Yep. Yep, you can do that. This is kind of habit I have in case like I want to repurpose, if I want to use a variable elsewhere, then I can do it.
Probably more readable.
It's also probably more readable. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, you can just do it in the bracket itself.
Oh.
What was the initial challenge I said? Oh,
The winking.
the wink. Yeah, yeah. So to do that, yeah, so to change the size of the eyes, so you could do a different variable. You could do, so I'm going to keep it with the eyes just so it's a little bit organized here. Let, I don't know what to call it, I width, whatever. It's very literal, but I width equal a random number between, oh, I don't know, what are my current sizes? 60 and 100. Oh wait, what am I doing? What am I doing here? X. Oh, yeah, we just changed this number. No. Oh my God. Sorry, I've confused myself here. The IX, size X. Okay. So, okay, this is going to be a little strange. We could do IXR and IXY. We can make one number, meaning right. Then we can duplicate that and make IXL and IXL. This is not very readable. I don't like what I'm doing here, but I'm doing it. So then when we draw the I, so what we're doing here, we've created a random number for the X of the right eye, the Y of the right eye, the X of the left eye, and the X, or I'm sorry, the Y of the left eye. Okay, so then when we come down for the eye, this is the right eye here, and this is the left eye here. Does that make sense what I just did? Was that a weird explanation? Does that make sense?
I was trying to figure out, why my pages went so. When I got stuck on the stroke color part.
This misspelling, so that's a stroke, it should be stroke, yeah. It's always the silly little things.
Wait, is there still wrong with stroke?
Oh, yeah, I see the capital S here. It's cases together.
Yeah, so if you want to do the different eye sizes, what I did was I would name this something else. I would name the variable something else if I were you, but I made the I X for the right eye and the I Y for the right eye, then the I X for the left eye and the I Y for the left eye. So then when you draw the I down here, you put the R for the right eye and the L for the left eye. I'm not entirely sure if that makes sense. I hope it does, but see all that together. Yeah, so I just changed the two current I variables and I made 4 of them. 2 for the left, 2 for the right. Questions?
I might try to do that one day.
You should make the cat one day. You should definitely try it. I found it more frustrating than anything else when I tried. And yeah, if you want to quickly go back to the animation, if you want to see how that works, I'm just going to delete most of what I have here. Save this. Yeah, sure. Save So I'm going to delete all of these 9 faces. So we'll just have 1. So I'll remove the for loop. Move all of this crap here. So now I have 1 face. Oh, actually, one more thing I want to show you, actually. I'm just going to go back for a second. So we have 9 faces. If we make this canvas much bigger, say, for example, 5,000 in height, we can make way more faces. We can do 100. So this is the true beauty of generative art. You can, once you have the code written with, a couple strokes, you can suddenly produce all of this stuff. Now, again, I know this is a very, silly type of art to be producing, but if you make like actual, like nice aesthetic stuff, you can have infinite variations at the click of a button, hundreds, thousands at once. So the possibilities are endless.
Is it easy to have letters in there?
Uh,
That kind of different.
like what? So what would you want to do with the letter, for example?
Just have it like, I don't know, typed in as if.
Yep, you definitely can.
Squares or something.
Yep, you can. There's a special way to do that with P5 that I don't use very often. I think it's text. It's not bad. Text. Okay, it's pretty easy. So yeah, you can do lots of funky stuff. Yeah, this uses stuff like this is rotating on the X and the Z axis. This is actually 3D. This WebGL is like a 3D type. So that's how it's moving like that. Yeah, but to do text, it's something along the lines of like text. Text size, text word. Word. Need a location. Where's word? Where is word? I do not know. Where is the word? Oh, no. Oh, yes, it's behind the background. That's why. Hoisting, as David would say. There we go. Word. So yeah, it's very simple. You just write the word text, then in brackets you write whatever you want to write. Good test. And then the position is this 100, 100. So you can move it down. Yeah, so the P5 website's great. But what I would really recommend, this guy who I learned all this stuff is a guy named Daniel Schiffman. Is that the correct spell? Yes. This guy, Daniel Schiffman, he has all this YouTube series called the Coding Train. And so he teaches P5 and processing. And he's hilarious. He's really, really good, very energetic teacher. And yeah, so you can watch like a whole series of him and he goes through various P5 concepts. So I highly recommend watching him if you're interested in this stuff. He makes really cool stuff. But yeah, the problem is like this stuff gets really complicated really quickly. Like once you start getting into like crazy math functions, like what's one I was like most of the stuff I don't even understand what I'm doing. But like for example, I hope I don't have anything compromising here, but oh, cat face. Oh, cat face pointer. This might be fun. So I did this with P5, and this is very simple. Like it's just this is following the mouse location, and the eyes are like tied to that location of where the mouse is. It's very simple. That's not what I was going to show you, but it's fun nonetheless. Like, what's a really complicated one? Oh, that's complicated. Let's see this one. So this thing here, this is just a series of lines. And what they do is the lines start from a random point and they end at the center. And the random point, this works on the sine and cosine functions. So it's kind of complicated, but it's basically like the cosine of this variable I, and then I times it by an angle, I times it by another angle, and then I times it by a certain radius that I've declared earlier. And yeah, so every time you do it, it's what's it? Stuff. And it's actually looks complicated, but it's not really that complicated. It's just one line, and that's as simple as drawing, simple as writing line. There's a starting position, an ending position, and a length. And then just looping through that line again and again and adjusting it by a certain function. That's all it's really doing. So, I mean, this is way less code than like those silly little faces I drew, but it's just weird, kind of complicated math that I don't even understand the math, but I don't really need to do it. I just play around until something interesting comes out. And yeah, I was quickly wanted to show the 3D stuff. God, my computer's a mess. WebGL. Let's see what this is. I do not know. Oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be, but yeah. So this is just basically drawing spheres. So these are actually 3D spheres. This is kind of a low resolution thing I have here, and they're drawn on a certain angle, which is, I don't even know how this is done. This isn't what I meant to show you, but anyway, it's something like, like some kind of sine curve or something.
Where did this 3D sphere come? It creates it in here.
Where do I what, sorry?
Where does this 3D sphere come from?
So first you need to declare this as so the sphere itself is drawn here. And then it takes certain properties like the specular material is it's hard, I can't really explain it, but it's like the reflection and the stuff and where the light hits, like the angle of the light. So that's what makes it appear 3D.
Oh, okay. It's still all within this.
Yep. And yeah, so what's happening is like you draw one sphere and then you keep looping. So this loops 100 times, and every time it loops, the position is translated to a new position, and that position is based on this weird function that I don't even know where I got that formula from, but I just made it up. And yeah. But anyway, that's not really what I want to show you. Yeah. I once made a short film using this stuff. Yeah. Do you want to watch that? It's like 2 minutes long. Would that be silly? Oh goodness, where would this be? It's called The Poet. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I think it's on YouTube. But... here it is. Now, there is some flashing lights. So if you are prone to epileptic conditions, you might not want to watch this. But so it's 2 minutes long. So everything you see here, it's very simple shapes, and it's just simple animation in P5. And I screen grabbed everything, like I QuickTime movied everything, and then put it all together in After Effects, I think it was. So this is all based on, everything is done in P5, all the drawing, all the animation. Was any volume?